most of the users of WordPress do not speak English as their first language, right? And everything we have is in English. So it has always been, a kind of a barrier to go work with WordPress. You need to have a certain level of language.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another Kinsta Talks episode. My name is Marcel Bootsman, and I'm with Kinsta. I'm the Partnerships and Community Manager for the EMEA region, and in this Kinsta Talks episode, we're going to talk with Estela Rueda. Hi Estela, how are you doing?
Hello, Marcel. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. It's great to have you here again. For the people that don't know Estela is a longtime contributor to the WordPress project, mainly focused on documentation. And as we all probably know right now, that AI can do a lot of work for us if we talk about documentation. Estela has written a proposal to, how she calls it, to create AI-powered documentation assistant for WordPress core blocks.
Yes.
This was a draft, and Estela shared it with me before we started recording this call, and it's very interesting. But Estela has some news about that. So Estela, please let us hear what is going on.
Yes. Well, my idea was to add that, and it still is. I want to add the documentation links to each block documentation. Pair the block with its documentation. The reason for this is most people do not know how to get to the WordPress documentation. I mean, most people do not know that there is one tiny link over there on your left. And then you go into documentation and it's very difficult to navigate, to be honest. So my idea was why don't we pair each block with each documentation, right? A user documentation. At the beginning, thought we have this link to the block, a little explanation, what you can do with this block, 1, 2, 3 steps, and then have the link to the actual documentation, and then a little bit AI power recommendations on how you can improve your content. This feature, the team started thinking about it and started talking about it, and they said that they could do it with the notes, which is the new feature from for 7.0, I believe that for collaboration and all of it, and using the AI experiments plugin or abilities plugin, one of those.
Yeah, the abilities. Yeah,
the abilities. Okay, abilities plugin, and so I don't know if they started working on this before I turned in my proposal or after I turned in my proposal. I don't know. But the good news is that they decided to implement that feature about how to improve your content through the entire site. So instead of saying how you can improve your content in the paragraph block, that you can have a recommendation on how to improve your content in the entire page, for instance, or a post. Yeah. And that's about it. So now my next proposal what I'm going to push for is still to have that link between the block and the documentation right on the right panel, because I think it's important for people to have that.
absolutely.
Because like I said, I do not like users, non-developers, to go and navigate WordPress.org, because I think it's scary for non-developers or for people that is not used to the site.
Even if it's not scary, even if it's not complicated to find the information, because there is a lot of information there, so it could be a challenge to find the documentation you need.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt anyone to include a link in every core block we have, which says, read the docs about this block here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a perfect example of making software more accessible also,
Yes.
and also making it better, as in opening the doors and rolling out the red carpet to the documentation, instead of trying to fence it off, or
Yes.
because that sometimes happens, or if there even is
It
no
is.
documentation, then there are no fences needed. But I think this is a great suggestion, and I'm very happy to hear that this is going to be worked upon. And I'm very
Yes.
curious about how it's really going to be implemented.
Yeah, I'm going to present the proposal this week. Well, next week, now that everybody is back from work on Pesha, I suppose by Monday, everybody has, slept and getting all the adrenaline over with.
Yes.
So I will present the next week. And obviously, first I need to present it to Mary because I need to make sure that Mary gives it the blessing. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So I want to work with her and then to Mary Hubbard.
Yep.
Hubbard.
Hubbard.
I never know
Hubbard.
how to pronounce her. Hubbard. So, but for people that don't know, yeah. And we'll work with her, and then let's see if we can implement it. It's not a promise that it will go to 7.1, but let's try to see if it can go this.
Sure. As I said, I think it's a great addition.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very how do you say that when something is really really visible on your screen? It's not a very not intrusive.
It's not
It's just
intrusive.
there. It's just one link underlined, as we like links, of course.
Yes, and that's it. It just this blog, and here is the documentation in case you get stuck with it.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds
Yeah,
it sounds really cool. Thank you for this update about this. I know you shared the proposal, and you also shared some screenshots of how you would envision it would look like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there public information about this
No.
proposal? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I will publish next week after I talk to Mary.
Okay. Then for people watching this video right now and wanting to know how this would look, basically, if you open up a block in the block editor, open up a post or a page, click a paragraph. There you see the paragraph block. Standard on the right side, in the right sidebar, you can select either the page or the block.
Mm-hmm.
View, and you can see that you are editing a paragraph. There's a little line of text underneath the block title that says, hey, this is what kind of block. And then underneath there would be a link to the documentation of this block.
User documentation. Let's clarify this to the user documentation.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that's the right place to get people to know about the user documentation. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for this. This is a great thing to learn, and absolutely, I think it's a great addition to WordPress to make the documentation also more accessible to our users around the world.
Easy to find.
Yeah, that's easy to find. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like the breadcrumbs. Where do I find stuff? Exactly that. And be proud that you have documentation and share it and show it. And maybe because more people are going to look at the documentation, maybe you'll get even more people that want to contribute to the documentation because it's going to be more visible. Wow. All kinds of positive things. That's good to hear. But that's not the only thing you've been working on, of course.
No, I know. I can't stay still. No. Well, this proposal about putting the blog documentation out there, and also because when we updated the documentation for 6.9, we discovered that a lot of the documentation hasn't been updated since 6.4 or something like that. And the reason for this, I have to say, is that at some point we all got very excited and opening issues, and nobody was working on them. And then a lot of our contributors were overwhelmed, and they kind of stepped down, and things that were just kind of like left there. We've been trying to do, little by little. If you find one, you just do it, and that's it. But then I realized that, one here, one there, one everywhere is not going to get us anywhere. In December last year, we had close to 800 issues open issues, between Dev Hub, Help Hub, Advanced Administration, themes, plugins, and the one that I still don't understand is the migration to Codex. We still have some issues in there. So I took it upon myself to triage all those 26 pages of GitHub issues in the documentation issue tracker and label everything and started working. I opened Overhaul projects for each category in user documentation, and I started adding an issue. For instance, let's say the paragraph block. And I found 5 issues related to the paragraph block. So what I did is that I gathered these 5 and add them to this new issue, and this is Overhaul. So before you update, you need to look through all of these 5 and make sure what is still valid and what is not. Because there are, we have features have been developed continuously, and they've been changing continuously. So some of them are still valid, some of them are like totally outdated. So we've been closing issues that are not relevant any longer, updating what is needed, what is still relevant, and the idea is to have everything ready as the point of 6.9.
Okay.
And then just a few issues that, or the few blogs that will be updated with 7.0, then we will work with those, which were the first ones to be updated, I have to say.
Okay.
Those are
That's good.
ready
Yeah.
to get the information from 7.0, the updates for 7.0.
Yes.
We're good
Right.
in that point. We're still not done. Like I said, from December till, well, from February that we started actually up to date, we have closed nearly 200 issues. A little bit more, a little bit less, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And we've been working hard, trying to do that. Why? One thing that I need to tell, I am focusing first on the blogs, because those are the ones
On
that
the
I
core
want
blocks,
public.
right?
Yes, the core blocks.
The core blocks, yes.
The core blocks, because those are the ones that I want to link first on WordPress, on the software, right? To have them on the blog, on the panel at the right side. So they need to be first, and then we are going to focus on the rest. We're focusing on what we call customization, which is all about the editor, how the editor works, and all that stuff that we need to redo entirely, because we have this editor. I think the last one that I read, we still had the previous editor. We didn't have the new editor, which is completely different. So we need to
Yes.
go through all of that. And there are about
Yeah.
50 tickets just for the site editor.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, all of that needs to happen. But I'm going to make sure that we get rid of all the blocks. Once we get the blocks updated, then I can focus on another category. There are two other categories that are important, but are not so, they're not priority. Let's put it that way, which is WordPress overview. The other one is memory.
Technical guides?
Technical guides, yes. So those are going to be, we're going to continue with the technical guides, because just to make sure that we have everything, because that's where all the screens are, and a lot of screens have changed. So that's another one that needs to go. That's the first one. And then WordPress overview is where our, the FAQs, we need to redo the FAQs entirely now, because they are probably, last time somebody touched them, we were probably like 5 or something like that. They are pre-Gutenberg. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. There is one very important article that I need to update, which is WordPress.org versus WordPress.com. And I will tell you why. I want to add a third word in there. We use WordPress in 3 instances: org, com, and the software. When I was going through AI and helping me write these articles and everything, I realized that AI does not differentiate. And this was ChatGPT. And probably by now you learned it, because I grill it so much. So if they updated between me grilling it and now, they probably updated.
Yeah.
But when I did all of this, ChatGPT did not differentiate between WordPress.org and the software, WordPress. And it was giving me results of, you can monetize WordPress.org. You can host it yourself. Excuse me? No. So I think that it will also help us, not only the AI, but it will help us to clarify more that confusion that has always been between .org and .com. We usually use it in 3 instances, not 2. This is why the whole confusion is, because nobody understands what WordPress.org is. And until people don't understand that WordPress.org is a resources site, it's an editorial site. This is where we have all our resources. This is where we build the software. And then, WordPress.com is a company. There's a hosting company that does all of that, and then is the WordPress, the software, the one that you can host somewhere, that you can monetize, and you can create your site with however you like. So it is easier. It will be easier for users, right, for all of us to understand the difference between all the instances of WordPress. Understand that WordPress.org is a resources site. It's an editorial site. Is where we document how we build the software.
Yes.
And then have WordPress.com, which is a hosting company, completely different than WordPress.org. And the software, WordPress, the software, the one that you can host, that you can monetize, that you can, edit however you like it. So that's what I want to do. I want to introduce that third use of WordPress. And I think that it will help a lot of people to understand. And it also will help agencies, freelancers, and everybody who builds sites to explain it to their clients. Because this is why that nobody can understand it. Because people don't understand that WordPress.org is not a website for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's good. That's good to emphasize it again, because we've been emphasizing this a lot of times already. But we have new people joining the WordPress community, and we have new people hearing about WordPress, and I think it's always good to talk about this and to explain the differences between these three WordPresses around there.
Yes. So yeah, that's my other plan, and obviously
excellent.
Continue to update all of that very old information that is in WordPress overview.
Yes, well, that's what it is. Estela, I'm looking at your article here on make.wordpress.org about how to help with the overhaul of documentation.
Yes.
If people want to find that article, I might put the link in the YouTube description. Otherwise, look for how to help with the overhaul of documentation. Yes. Use the search function on make.wordpress.org and you can find it there.
Yeah, or I might send you the second link that I'm going to publish later today, where I also have with an update of the Overhaul Project, which is a little bit of what we've been talking about. And then I'm going to link the first one to that one. I always like to link them. So.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely, to keep these updates linked together. That's definitely a good practice. All right, well, that sounds good. Is there anything else you want to mention to our viewers? Any exciting stuff that's happening besides the postponing of WordPress 7.0 release?
Well, no, actually, it was a welcome postponement because it gave us more time to finish our documentation updates. I'm not thrilled. I'm not very happy about it because obviously we cannot release 7.0, and developers have been working even more and harder to make sure that that they can release the feature.
Yep. Yes.
But it is a little sad because then we cannot propose anything because everybody's busy and focused.
Yep.
So yeah, but we just gotta give them a break. We gotta wait for them, and I think that once 7.0 is released, everybody will take a break, big respire, and then move on.
I think so
because
too. Yeah,
we don't stop.
A well-deserved break, absolutely.
Yes,
because there's a lot of work going into 7.0.
Yes, it's very important. It's a very strong. It's. I think that. It's the first step into collaboration.
Yep.
And it's very important that we get it right.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it should work.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So if we get that right, even Matt is there working hard. Everybody's like really, really working. So yeah, and testing and everything. I read the notes once in a while.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what's needed. All right. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty nice to hear, and I'm very happy to see all these documentation about documentation as well, and seeing the proposals. It's really an eye-opener to see for me also to see what's happening. But I understand you have something else to let us know.
I have something that I want to mention, because it's very important and because I'm very proud of it. We've been working with a student from the WP Credits class. I don't know if you know what WP Credits is. She's a lady from Bolivia, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
And she went in and reviewed the handbook for documentation. And she gave us a lot. There's a lot of comments. She wrote the whole thing, gave us a lot of input into this needs to be clear. This needs to be clear. I didn't understand this. Maybe you wanted to say this. Maybe you can say it this way, which I love. Why is it so important to me? Is because, as we know, most of the users of WordPress do not speak English as their first language, right? And everything we have is in English. So it has always been, a kind of a barrier to go work with WordPress. You need to have a certain level of language. Now, thankfully, you can just grab any browser and it will translate everything for you. But still, so what she gave me, the information, the input that she gave has a lot to do with how you perceive a sentence in English, how you perceive it in Spanish, and why it's so confusing for her.
Interesting.
So, yes, it was a very interesting approach. She wrote it in Spanish and she wrote it in English, and she sent it to me in both languages because she knows I speak both languages. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting because, we don't really think her level of English is not great. So she did use a lot of translation tools and everything.
Of course. Yes.
But again, is this fact that, maybe this sentence I meant to say something easy, that I thought it was easy to understand. And the moment that when she translates it to Spanish, it's like, this doesn't make sense. So she needs to rewrite it in a way that makes sense to her. And it made me wonder about other languages, about all these barriers that we're having. And now, of course, with the AI tools, translation tools, it's like, are they getting it right? Because I caught a couple of those, on her document, and I read them, and I'm like, no, those are wrong. Those two are wrong. They're translated wrong in Spanish, and they're translated back in English wrong. So that's a problem with the AI tool that you use. So she corrected them, and she helped. And I think that that's very good. I'm going to talk to you. I never know how to pronounce his name. With Tor?
Yes. Toby.
Toby, with Toby. Yeah, I'm going to talk to...
Friends call him Toby.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I always call him Tor. But I'm going to talk to Toby about this and have him review the manual and see what he can say, because he's a specialist. He's a language specialist. And I'm going to tell him this and see what recommendations he gives, because it will also help with the recommendations he has for the translation of WordPress.
That is really nice. And for the people who don't know the WP Credits program, it's a program designed to help students get more experience with contributing to WordPress, and also their academic requirements, right?
Yes, they are using it as an internship.
Yeah, as an internship.
Yeah,
wow.
They're giving credits as an internship in universities. So I don't know if it works like that in all of them, but I know in Latin America and Spain is working as the internship. The internship credit that you need at the end of the
absolutely. You need that for your education. If people want to find out more information, you can go to wpcredits.org. That's a landing domain which links to the program handbook, latest updates, courses, and the GitHub tracker for WP Credits projects. Yes. So check it out if you have time. Thanks for this edition, Estela.
Yes, and that's all we have. And that is all now.
Good. That is all now. That's all, folks. Well, thank you very much, Estela, for your time on this Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Very happy to hear these kind of insights about documentation and about the work you've been doing and the work that we at Kinsta are sponsoring.
Yes.
You as part of the community sponsorship program. Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you.
Yes, one thing that I would like to mention is that one thing that I have learned as a contributor, because most of my time has not been a sponsor, and now that I have this sponsorship, is that I have learned that not to waste sponsor time and to use it in things that are really, really, that will really, really improve the project in any way. So I think that what I'm doing is going to improve the project in the future, and that's all that matters.
Is going to improve the project, and your sponsorship or our sponsorship towards you is valuable. And I think all the sponsorship that we are contributing to the contributors, but also other companies out there and individuals that are sponsoring other contributors, everything is valuable. All amounts matter.
Yes.
And the more, the better. So if you work at a company I'm looking at our audience right now. If you work at a company that does a lot of WordPress work, you make money working on projects which are WordPress based, check out if you or your manager or your CEO has some funds left to sponsor contributors in the WordPress space, because everybody needs money.
Yeah,
basically.
and they do not need to be full-time contributors. Part-time contributors.
Exactly. That's a good
10
addition.
hours a month is a great
Yes.
great amount of time to do a lot.
Yeah. And I'm even a fan of contributors being sponsored with 10 small amounts than one big amount, because if that one big amount, if that party decides, okay, we're, for whatever reasons, we're stopping sponsoring, then everything is gone. And if you have 10 smaller parts, and if one drops, you still have 9 left. So
that is correct. Yeah.
that's what I want to emphasize. More on that on WordCamp Europe, because I've been selected as a speaker for WordCamp Europe in Poland. This is
looking
something
forward to it.
I want to spread this message even further.
It is. It is. It's important.
Yes, it definitely is. So again, Estela, thank you very much. I'm wishing you a happy day and weekend, and talk to you next time.
Okay, talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.